All right, let's discuss Hong Kong, the Hong Kong 12. Thoughts on that? Just for geographic reference here, Hong Kong is right here, Taiwan is right there. Okay.
So how far did they get?
Did they stay in there? How far? Like,
Yeah.
I think it's 24 miles.
How many miles is it to?
it's 400 miles, I think. 400
400
miles across major global shipping
It's
network.
worth the way there.
So the-
So we didn't get very far.
Yeah. Didn't get very far. Yeah.
Why were they fleeing to, or going?
Taiwan?
Yeah.
Taiwan has said that they will accept refugees from Hong Kong, which is now under the control of the Chinese government. You don't have the same freedoms that you did a year ago at this time.
What
Okay.
are the freedoms they took away?
Freedom of the press, freedom of assembly, freedom of speech. You can't do anything, publish anything that goes against the CCP. And so that's what just happened over the summer, where they finally passed the law that said you can be extradited from Hong Kong to mainland China. And that was the big thing. That was the one thing that all the protests had been going on since last summer, since June of 2019. And they first started back in 2014. And it kind of simmered down, and then China tried to assert its might again, and this time they were successful. So it's all about that word extradition. Usually if you broke the law in Hong Kong, the law was dealt with there, but now because the Chinese Communist Party has total control over Hong Kong, they now will extradite you back and give you, basically the punishment never really fits the crime. It far, far exceeds what you did wrong. Okay, so publishing something that's that they consider subversive, that can get you 15 years in jail. So remember, so Taiwan has basically said, we will accept all comers. Okay, anyone from Hong Kong that wants to come and settle here, we will accept you. And so, why would China just let them go?
Just China want control.
Kind of control, yeah.
They let them go with like everybody can go.
Yes, and then what happens to Hong Kong? Yeah, it's not the same. They don't want everybody leaving because they're discouraging that. So it's almost like they're making it, this is history repeating itself almost with the Berlin Wall.
Yes.
The Berlin Wall wasn't to keep people out, it was to keep all the people in. Because what happened is people in East Germany and East Berlin were walking across the street just to escape into freedom, West Berlin and West Germany. And so the Soviet Union was basically controlling communist East Berlin, said, build a wall, don't let anybody else out. And so that looks really bad for China if everyone's leaving Hong Kong.
Yes.
And economically, it's bad. Remember Boris Johnson, he said he would accept 3 million Hong Kong refugees. They're welcome to come to Britain and set up shop there if they want to. So they've got a public relations nightmare brewing here if people continue to leave. What they're hoping that you're new masters to stay up out of politics and everything's gonna be fine, go about your business. But as we've seen, these protesters are pretty persistent folks. And so you have the picture there, you guys have, there's people protesting on their behalf that are being arrested. And they're just basically saying it's unacceptable.
Why did China's, like this, the CCP, why did they want more control of Hong Kong in the first place? Didn't they already have it?
Indirectly, they didn't have enough, and they want to control the flow of money. It's an economic, it's all about the money. So, yeah, less international interference if they can control things. So, yep. And why are they doing it now? They could have done it a while ago. Well, now they know they can push their weight around, and there won't be a lot of blowback. Okay, we're certainly not going to interfere for Hong Kong. We condemn it, like we have. The president condemned it along with the prime minister of Britain. But beyond that, we're not going to send any aid because we could start something worse. Okay, so anyways, the CCP showing its true colors again. Okay? So what about this thing in Kyrgyzstan? Now Kyrgyzstan, if you're wondering where that is, here it is, it's the yellow country right here. So it borders China, Kazakhstan, and then Tajikistan and Uzbekistan. So all the Stan countries, as they call them, it's right there. So what's going on there?
Is it a fact that,
The president?
I can't get my words. Is he actually, the president, like, actually in the wrong? Or
Yeah.
he's proven what he did?
International observers have said the election was fixed, and so protests erupted, and he is gone. He fled the country. So
So who do they have leading right now?
no one.
Great.
So they've got some ideas, and they're going to have, I think they said parliamentary elections. They're going to choose some. I think it's in the last column.
Yeah.
So they're working on it, but right now there's a vacuum, and that's never good when you have a vacuum and there's no one to fill that leadership role. A lot of things can happen here. So it's interesting. I had no idea this was even brewing. I had no idea when I saw it in the paper. It was on the front page. Wednesday's paper. It says vote dispute plunges Kyrgyzstan into chaos. I'm like, Kyrgyzstan? Nothing ever comes out of Kyrgyzstan. No news. It's just kind of forgotten about. It's one of the former Soviet republics. And here it is. Their president's fled. The people are taking over state capitol buildings. It's like, wow, this kind of happened pretty quick. Okay. Now, what have you guys heard about Armenia and Azerbaijan? Have you heard anything about this? There's Armenia and there's Azerbaijan. Those are also both former Soviet republics. They used to be a part of the Soviet Union. Basically, Armenia and Azerbaijan are fighting over a disputed region. And I'm not sure the name of it. I forget, there's a hyphen in there, and I can't remember how to pronounce it, but it's a little region that's bordering Armenia and Azerbaijan. When the Soviet Union collapsed, Azerbaijan got the territory, and Armenia has never been happy with that. So what's going on now? Why has this been, that was 1991. Why now? What's happening? Well, Turkey, okay, they're stirring the pot a little bit. They said, hey, Armenia will support you if you want to get your land back. So that is emboldened Armenia, and so now there's clashes, there's fighting going on, violence.
Isn't there also like fighting and stuff on like the Gaza Strip or something like that?
I haven't heard that, but that's possible. Did that just recently happen?
No, I've been like not me personally, but like my classes have been talking about that for like years. That it's like fighting back and forth, like
Oh, yeah.
always like an endless.
The Gaza Strip is still a disputed
Yeah.
territory. Yeah, the Palestinians lay claim to it. Israel has control over it, so it's been going. Yeah, the Golan Heights and then I think the East Bank have always been like in hot contention for that. And then what was the other one? Oh yeah, remember what's going on in Moldova? You guys remember that? Or, I'm sorry, not Moldova, Belarus. Belarus. Remember the contested election? The president, he's been basically the dictator there, friends of Putin for a long time, and they started protesting. Remember, 200,000 people were in the streets of Minsk, the capital, right here. Well, guess what? They're still protesting. And it looks like and I can't remember the guy's name, the pro-Putin ally, the president, is not able to get a handle on this. And so Russia, and this is why I have you guys, and I'm bringing all this in, I had you guys read the article on Kyrgyzstan. This all looks bad for Putin, okay? He's got a lot of things going on in former Soviet republics or former countries that the Soviet Union used to control that he is allies with, okay? He's telling the guy in Belarus, get this under control. The guy's like, it's not that easy, okay? This is the border right of Russia with Azerbaijan and Armenia. So he had a pretty good working relationship with those two countries. So that's up in the air. And then you have Kyrgyzstan. which borders Kazakhstan, which used to be a part of the Soviet Union, and there is an air base, a very, very vitally important air base owned by Russia in Kyrgyzstan. If that falls out of, like, if that's not in Putin's control anymore, then that's a strategic point that he just gave up because it gives him access and kind of to monitor what's going on in China. Okay, see how this, so Putin has a lot of things to worry about right now. And what they're saying is all this stuff that's going on is making Putin look bad on the world stage because he can't control it. And so what they're thinking is sooner or later, he's gonna act in a show of force. So if that happens, that's something that is probably was predicted, and you guys are hearing it. That it's probably if something that if things don't calm down, it gets any worse, Putin will act to help put down all this unrest and try to help to take care of it, because it's making him look really bad right now. All these former Soviet socialist republics are kind of in turmoil right now. Chaos, protests still going on, fighting between two countries over disputed land. So that's in his backyard, or his backyards. Russia is a very large country. So that's the scene on international politics, basically what's going on in Asia right now. So, any questions?
It had mentioned that there has been no contact with him and the former president. Does that make it worse?
Yeah, Putin hasn't any contact? Yeah. Yeah, because it doesn't look good. Yeah, not at all.
How long does he have before he really has to kind of make the judgment call?
Putin? Not sure, it could be any time. I think if it escalates anymore, you're gonna see a reaction. And so I think for Putin, the most important of all the territories right now, the most important for him is Belarus, because of the link to Europe and the pipeline, the oil and gas pipelines that go from Russia. He has to make sure those are safe. And if his buddy can't take control of them, he's gonna have to go help him take control to make sure those are still, because I mean, think about it, if this becomes a democracy, Belarus, and it's ruled by the people, they're gonna say, wait a minute, Putin's running his oil and gas pipelines through here. How much were you charging him? Oh, well, it was free because he's, Putin. No. We're charging him more. See how that works? It's an economic thing for Putin, so he'll react. So, but yeah, that's what's going on. And then locally, we have a group that's trying to kidnap our governor.
Yeah.
So,
Have we found them, arrested them, anything?
yeah, 13 now, I think it is. 13 people.
So what are they, I don't know if you're
It was a group. It was in.
like Wolverine from Militia.
Yeah, they're like, it was Wolverine.
It's so ridiculous.
Yeah. It's I guess they caught what they were saying in like an online chat back in June 25th. Live stream a video to a private Facebook group in which you complain about the judicial system and the state of Michigan controlling things as the opening of gyms, such as the opening of gyms according to the complaint. And it said there's a derogatory thing said about Whitmer. And yeah, so they were gonna blow up some bridges, and they were trying. What their goal was, it says, was to instigate a civil war leading to societal collapse. So they're trying to.
On a Facebook Live?
No, by doing this, they were gonna kidnap a governor of one of the 50 states, it's Gretchen Whitmer, and then they were gonna try her for treason, which carries a death penalty, and that would have stoked things pretty good. And then they were gonna blow up some bridges, and then.
They were talking about this on a Facebook Live, or?
Initially, they did, and that's when he was.
Can you imagine calling up your buddies on a Facebook Live and being like, I got news for you?
Yeah, the Wolverine Watchmen is what the group is called.
So was it like, oh, we're gonna go after Whitmer, or was it like, oh, we need to go after somebody, let's just pick Like Whitmer.
I thought
Yeah.
there were multiple politicians and Whitmer was just one of them.
Is that right?
I think so. I don't know. That's
Yeah.
what I
I
thought.
thought you meant like they like successfully kidnapped her.
Oh, no, that would be,
Not that one.
That would be.
yeah, that would have been, a big deal. That would have been an international event. It's,
Was their goal to like make unrest in the United States or in Michigan?
I think overall,
Okay, so this was like a big goal.
yeah, it says it details a series of meetings in Michigan, Ohio, and elsewhere where the conspirators allegedly attempted to recruit others to the circle. And the FBI busted this. And they were anarchists, so. Yeah, the only thing unfortunate is that, it said Mrs. Whitmer said President Trump had created an atmosphere that encouraged the alleged plot, saying he has continually sown seeds of division and failed to condemn white supremacists and hate groups like the ones targeting her. I think that's unfortunate to do that because then you lay blame, and then what it's going to do is both sides are going to dig it even more. And I don't know if she needs to go that far with it. I wouldn't have done that. I wouldn't have advised that because that's going to, I don't know. Why can't it just be a group that's planning this and they're the bad ones and that they were gonna, attempt to do it no matter what? Because they were anarchists, they weren't Trump supporters, they weren't Biden supporters, they were anarchists. And right, the whole society will collapse, that's the idea, that's what anarchists are after. Okay, the guy that took down McKinley, William McKinley, Leon Schogel was his name, he was an anarchist and he was trying to disrupt, everything. He's a crackpot. So,
Have you heard any more about the debate? Or is it officially canceled?
still up in the air. Yeah, I know that Trump said he's not doing the virtual one, and so far, they're saying they're waiting. There has to be a negative test for Trump, and then it has to be verified by Johns Hopkins or some like national known hospital. And then if that's the case, then they'll clear it, but then they'll still use plexiglass and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Did Trump ever, following the debate, did he ever denounce white supremacy?
He did the very next day when he was getting on the plane to go to the Minneapolis rally. Yeah, he did. It was it wasn't an official press conferences. One where he was going out to Marine One to go to Air Force One, and he stops and talks to the press sometimes, and then they were asking him questions, and then he said, I renounce all, and renounce, whatever, condemn all hate groups. And he said that many times before. That's the one thing I don't understand is how there's this high standard for him to keep on doing that when he's done that. And on the vice presidential debate, when you guys saw that when they talked about the violence and stuff, the racial violence, the thing that came up where in Charlottesville, Pence actually finally said he said that's not actually what happened. He did denounce white supremacists, but it was far apart in that speech. You guys know what I'm talking about? Remember the fine people on both sides? Remember, so there's fine people on both sides, and everyone took that and framed it and left everything else out. So it looks like he's saying there's fine people, there's neo-Nazis that are fine people. And later on he said, that's not true, I condemn those, I'm not talking about the white supremacists, I condemn them. So he did say it before, so I don't know, I don't get that, and then they keep on harping on it. So it's the one thing I don't understand. I don't understand, and as far as Biden, he was asked about, is he gonna pack the Supreme Court? Did you guys see that?
Yeah.
And he said, I'm not gonna make that announcement until after the election. Okay, so it's one of those things too, because we have to call it fair on both sides. If they keep on asking the question, he's not gonna answer it, okay? And so it's let it go. It's they're holding them accountable for something, so I don't know. It's
He'll probably do what every other president has ever done.
Right,
Supreme Court.
There's other issues to talk about than, the white supremacists,
It means adding more members onto it. So if Trump were to have who was it again?
Amy Coney.
If she were to get accepted and Joe Biden then won the presidency, he would tack on more people to the Supreme Court so he could nominate more Democrats.
Because theoretically, Joe Biden can be like, I want more members of the Supreme Court.
We had the same number though for like.
Yeah, we've had the same number for a while, that's why it's such a big deal. And I think it's probably gonna hurt his chances of getting elected if he doesn't answer it or anything.
Yeah.
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 Because right now, it's like their biggest thing against the Biden campaign, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's
Courts.
what I'm saying, is like, he should say it, and then we move on.
That's,
And then after he says it, we don't keep on harping on him. Well, you didn't answer the question before,
Right.
but I denounced it, yeah, but for 3 weeks, you didn't answer the question. He answered the question, so that's why I was bringing up the Blind People Hoax thing, because that was a long time ago. And you should say, there's video of him denouncing white supremacists, go by that. You keep on asking him, that's like asking Joe Biden after he makes the decision to say, I'm not gonna pack the Supreme Court. Oh, but you said you didn't answer before, you know what I mean? You see my point? Like, let it rest.
Like, just let them answer the question.
Yeah, let him answer the question and move on to something else. It's like this, both sides try to mind read. You know what I'm saying? It's like they're trying to like, well, you didn't really mean it. Well, how do you know? You know, you're putting thoughts in people's heads, so anyways, it's, Roosevelt tried to do it in the Great Depression to pack the Supreme Court, and that was really controversial. He gave up on that, but, did you guys learn about that in A-Push?
I'm surprised they didn't. I don't know.
I think
I
we learned
remember
about it
reading-
in AP Gov, I thought we learned about it.
But
I remember vaguely reading it in English.
Well, maybe it was A-Push, but I do remember hearing about FDR being one of the only presidents to try and pack the courts.
What's the point of trying to pack it?
To get,
Yeah.
to get the Supreme Court basically to agree with you, pretty much.
Yeah, because it's 6-3 right now, or it will be with Amy Coney Barrett if she's confirmed. And then let's say they want to put 15 people total on the bench, so FDR. Biden, if he's elected, would nominate 5 extra people. So now you'd have, well, it would be 6. 6 more justices would make 15. Well, then add 6 to the 3 liberals already, because he gets to nominate all of them. That's 9-6. Now the Democrats have control over the Supreme Court.
Which,
Now-
like, they are supposed to be non-party.
Yep,
That,
we politicized the Supreme Court, so it's basically a way, like, you can't go by the rules, so change the rules. Now, remember, Congress has to agree to that. Anytime we increase the number of the Supreme Court or decrease it, or any of the federal district courts or appeals court, Congress has to do that. So it's gonna take both houses of Congress.
which wouldn't happen, was it?
It could, the Democrats are gonna keep the House, more than likely, and the Senate is right at the cusp. It could go either way. So if the Democrats did gain control of the Senate and the House, that means bills are gonna go through the process a lot easier. And that's what people are afraid of, that they're gonna pack the Supreme Court if they have the control of all the houses of Congress and the White House as well. So, does that make sense?
I think that's really stupid.
It's controversial.
Yeah.
You shouldn't do it.
Because then it's just gonna make the other side angry and the other side's gonna do something,
It's like when
gonna do
they,
something like in return that
They'll
way.
pack it even more next time.
Over
Yeah.
50 years,
Suddenly
we
we'll
have
have
50
to-
people in the Supreme Court, like.
There you go.
Or like
Fighting.
do something like in like
They're
Congress,
on there
like
for life.
do something in Congress and then everybody's just
The
gonna
courts,
get even more
they're
mad.
accountable. Like,
Yeah, I
people
think that we
are
should,
scared
like,
to agree with
limit-
you, and then-
I think we should like limit the time that a person can be in the Supreme Court. Like
do
even
you
if like,
think they should do that, like a 1-term appointment for the Supreme Court? That way they're not worried about getting reelected, like an 8-year, 10-year appointment.
Perhaps, it'd be like, I would say it would be like a 15-year appointment.
that's the
would
thing,
be-
like 15 years, like that's still like,
But like a good chunk of time.
Yeah,
I feel like also after a while, like Ruth, like she deserves to like retire and like not have to work like her entire life, like that way also they like can retire and like
They can.
take a break.
They
I mean,
can,
they can, but
yeah.
they don't like, they wanna stay in there just because I feel like it's so political for like Ruth felt like she had to, like she wanted to because like she felt like she had to, I think maybe. So like, I feel like the term would like bring new people in and bring like younger people in too.
that's the, it would like just being on the Supreme Court for your whole life, it's just a bunch of old people.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like,
Like, no offense to old people, Well, but that's not, that's
No,
the
one
entire
hundred and ten
population of the
percent
United
not,
States.
like, offense to old people, why are they there? Like, they don't,
No, hey, yeah, I'd be careful there, okay, because then we'll be sounding like a bunch of ageist, okay?
I am.
Well, I just, I was like,
It's so
I
easy to say that, but, remember, like, I can tell you, like, we had a lot of the people that were, the veteran teachers here, a couple of them that retired, they retired altogether. You kind of lose what they call institutional memory.
yeah.
Traditions are lost, and then ideas are lost, and that's the reason why, I mean, these are people that have been around and have seen, basically, the only mode of communication when they were young was radio. And they've seen, like, I don't know, the experience that goes with age, the wisdom that comes with that cannot be underestimated. Okay, now, there are old people that don't know what they're talking about, of course, but Supreme Court justices are kind of up on the top shelf, you know?
Well, they tend to know.
Yeah, they tend to know a lot, and it's like, I mean, read their opinions, it's like, or try to read them, I mean, it's like, well, I know why they're a Supreme Court justice now, because I understand the 2 words of that, and some of them are easier to read than others, but especially if it's a technical thing like laws governing trade or something like that, they bring in all kinds of stuff where it's like, wow, okay, impressive stuff. All right, examples of political participation. I think this is where we left off. Let's do a little bit of that.
Oh, I didn't read the chat.
I
You
am,
have a
You
chat?
yeah.
Okay.
Has there been any other talk about, Amy's appointment?
About what's that?
When will we start hearing more about her appointment?
The Supreme Court justice nominee? Next Friday. As far as I know, they said October 16th is when the hearings start, so it'll be, that's when we will find out what's going on.
It is 12:55, if you want to see what.
Let's do this, it's fine, then we won't.
Yeah.
Okay, we got political culture, right? We did that yesterday.
Did we get this?
Not yet, that's what we're on. Wait, we did,
What are we
yesterday.
talking about?
Political social, that one?
Political socialization, we did.
Yeah, we did the agents yesterday.
Emma?
Family, school, peers, years.
Family, I know family stuff, family.
Gotcha.
School,
Got it.
Oh, what?
Okay, it's
Oh,
on.
Emma Purpose, there,
there it is.
that thing.
Well, I remember writing it down, I don't know where I put it though.
I know, I was like telling him to, and then you're like, school peers, I was like, okay, you got
I
it.
really did not hear you.
I wrote this in the wrong box, that means, because I remember putting it somewhere.
Oh, it's probably in the political socialization box, along with, the definition of it, that's what you did. So remember, these go together because how do countries get their political culture? Basically how people are politically socialized, and that creates a culture. So political socialization is kind of individually how you get your politics. Collectively, all of us being socialized politically make up our political culture. Okay, so they go hand in hand. Okay. Political ideologies at the bottom of political culture, those were given to you. There's individualism and neoliberalism, communism, socialism, fascism, populism. Any questions about those? I think some of those you guys knew already, what they were. You've probably heard a lot about socialism. We're going to do something with those on Monday, so you'll see what that is. I'll send it to you guys, because you'll be at home, but did this. All right, examples of political participation. So how does it go? There you go. It's either voluntary or coerced.
Is this one on the front page?
This is, nope, this is going on, the next page, going back under nature and role of political participation. Good, I think I left, you skipped the page, or I left out the page.
I'll write it somewhere.
Okay. I mean, when we take a break, I'll get you the page ahead. So think about voting, like, where's voting on here? Well, voting is usually, it's the one voluntary thing we can do. In some countries, it's actually coerced, where you actually kind of encourage strongly to vote and vote in one direction. Did you guys think that some people vote for Putin because they're afraid not to?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Like with many people.
I'm in Russia, I'm voting for Putin. I'm not then having track that ballot back to me. I will sell out immediately. But where am I? Russia? Okay. Who's in charge? It's got my vote.
That's
I'm
like,
not messing around. So, now I don't know.
would you ever go to Russia?
No,
No.
I go to Moscow. And, but that's the only place I would go. And then, I'd like to go see Red Square in Kremlin. Because I grew up watching video of, like, nuclear weapons being paraded in front of that. I was being afraid of that. It'd be nice to go there and say, wait a minute, who won this Cold War? Oh, yeah. Just walk around all day again.
Walk
Pretend
around.
USA. You know, go to Lenin's tomb there, just say, we got you.
Yeah, I don't think you're leaving if you're doing that.
What's that?
I don't think you're leaving if I'm home.
No, we'll see.
Yeah, I'm like,
You'll see it.
Yeah.
I'll just blame it on what was that, the Wolverine Watchman?
There we go.
Yeah.
There we go.
All right, individual or group, taking action individually or with a group, supportive regime or against it, and then of course, your participation can be peaceful or violent. And we saw examples of that today going on in Hong Kong right now. Peaceful protests, those are, on that picture there, you see people that are handcuffed, but they're zip tied, because there's so many of them, that's the kind of like the cheap way to do it. And then in Kyrgyzstan, it tends to be a little more violent, and then Belarus kind of both. So, all right, let's take a quick brain break, and then we'll finish, we'll do referendum.
No, you're just.
I know, I was gonna go on a second, if you don't, I'll go bathroom for it.
Especially that's a whole packet of motions.
Yes.
I like.
Luca, it's Lee Ferguson Day.
Which one? Oh, all of them.
What's Lee Ferguson's Day?
What?
Is that SpongeBob?
No. We look.
Luca in the YouTube
Thank
chat,
you.
but
I-
happy
like,
Lee
I'm so very
Ferguson's Day.
good at this. I think I'll get in November. Which is like.
I'm trying to see what it is.
Okay, let's do referendums. Referendums. On the second page, you have referenda or referendum.
Oh, what?
On the what?
Go back to the second page on the vocab, like the very front page of the packet, and then the back side of that. Fourth one down, you have referenda.
Okay.
And I don't think I didn't define them, so here's the definition. When a government proposes a specific policy change to voters. When a government proposes a specific policy change to voters. When a government proposes a specific policy change to voters. And how that works, and you can, I got this down, a national election occurs, and it's either a yes or no vote.
Isn't that what happens with like the voter ID, like having to bring your ID or something? Like, I don't know if it was 2016 or 2018.
2018, yes.
And like, was like, oh, wait, what? Like, we need to,
Yep,
like,
yep.
not on there.
Marijuana, gerrymandering, in 2018, when Michigan, you mean, when we voted?
Yes.
Yes.
I remember
That
we
was-
did like an activity in,
Yep.
and you did an activity in
Yeah,
golf.
three things,
You let me
voting
hold
too.
the gavel.
What's that?
We did an activity in golf and you let me like hold the gavel.
I remember that. I remember that was
I mean,
fun.
and that's just giving.
Oh,
us
yeah.
examples.
So,
Was that the one where we?
We like changed like the legal drinking age to like 8 for like soft drinks, like wine, beer, but it was like 9 for liquors.
Oh, you guys didn't want to put the liquor at like age 6. I was so mad at you guys.
so, okay, hang on.
Oh, she was like.
I was the judge and Nick was talking about.
I'm surprised like others across
Anyways.
America didn't pass out.
If you ever get that national election is held and voters cast either yes or no, okay? And say, Lola brought up a good question. She asked, did we just do that in Michigan 2 years ago in 2018? We did. That time it's called initiative. That's when voters write a law and get enough signatures and it's on the next ballot. So we did that with marijuana, gerrymandering, and voter ID laws. All three of them passed in 2018. So when you think of referendum, think of initiative. They're very, very similar. The difference is this: the national legislature, whatever it is, actually chooses to put the vote to the people. So it's almost like I can't make a decision, I'm gonna refer it to the voters, hence referendum. Make sense? Okay, so it's basically referred to the voters to vote on. So Brexit, that was a big thing. Parliament said, we are gonna leave this up to the voters of Great Britain, and they voted yes to leave, to do the little Brexit exit, okay? So let's look at referendum from the countries that the AP6. You guys have the ones for the UK. Those were devolution to Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland, and also the referendum to leave the European Union, which we call Brexit. And then another one we didn't mention, but they also did a referendum to establish a mayor of London. A mayor of London. Do you know who the first mayor of London was, or one of the first? Boris Johnson.
There it is.
Yeah. So.
I thought that was in like a video or something. I remember that for some reason.
Was there one of the documentaries?
Was it?
Yeah.
That's right, it was.
Yeah.
Very good memory from the summer. And that's when we remember you got stuck on the zip line?
Yeah.
That's right. All right, Russia. There's a few in Russia here. The one is the constitutional referendum in 1993. That was where they wrote the Constitution. It was 2 years after the collapse of communism. And then in the meantime, they were trying to set up a democracy. They called France, got them on the phone, says, hey, can we borrow your constitution? We copied it, almost a Xerox copy with some minor changes, and then they said to the Russian people, do you want this constitution? And they said, yes.
Yeah, what did they do for 2 years?
It was, I don't know, it's kind of like,
Like,
back
a
to
year ago?
the American Revolution. We were like, what did we do in the meantime when we got the Brits out and we were trying to establish the Articles of Confederation? Because that wasn't adopted, I think until 1783, and the war was over in 1781. So I think there's still like a common law.
They were just like hanging out.
Yeah,
Was there
Like,
anyone who
don't
would
murder
enforce
anyone.
it?
Don't
yeah,
steal.
everyone just,
Like, it's
there was
just
no
like
crime.
prevent
What's
it.
that?
There's no crime.
There was no crime for 2 years.
So like, no one could enforce anything though, right?
Well, I'm sure like if you like stole from my house and beat you up, it's not really
Yeah.
like a.
The mafia!
But they could enforce you not beating me up though. Like, you can get in trouble for beating someone up.
Yeah, I can't. The
What
law
it
doesn't
was,
exist.
at the time, it was probably there was still a national legislature set up, and I'm not sure if it was, at the time it was called the Duma yet, but there were decisions being made. They just didn't formally adopt the Constitution. So I believe Boris Yeltsin was set up as president, like interim president, but they didn't formally adopt the Constitution. So it might have been one of those things, let's operate according to these rules, and if the people want it, let's put the vote to them, and then it's like in stone. Okay, so I believe that's what happened. During the American Revolution, we were operating under the Articles, and Congress was making decisions before it was formally adopted. So I believe it's got to be something similar, and local laws and customs still are in place. So,
Who had just been the mafia? Because they were around during the Soviet Union and they kept control of it.
I thought we were still talking about like the American Revolution.
I was thinking about that, because like, that was like a huge thing, like, they controlled a lot of the trains, and like, a lot of the trade and stuff like that, they probably, it was just like let's just not talk about it, or.
hey, we find out all kinds of stuff that was.
You get like really great benefits with
Chechnya is ethnically and religiously
Don't ask how I
different
know.
from the rest of Russia. And there was a separatist movement going on, but in 2007, the people of Russia said, no, we want to keep Russia, Chechnya as part of Russia.
So are they just a region of?
They're a republic. Yep, they're a republic, kind of like a state in the United States. They kind of run themselves, but ultimately Moscow has control over them.
How many is that the last one?
This is,
I'm ready
you
to
can narrow down the space at the bottom. Actually, there's a small.
Oh,
There's
I know.
space, we gotta open.
I don't know why you divided these out, sorry.
It's fine.
he left,
Probably
he
just,
left
that's
all
the
this.
longest, there's like, for the rest of these, they're like, we're gonna get through the rest of these in probably like 22 seconds.
Russia.
Right,
Yeah,
Russia
leave it up
had
to
so
Russia
much.
to boil everything.
So when Russia like was falling apart, like from the Soviet Union,
Did anyone think like we should try to limit how much area Russia has, other than just like them dropping like their like Poland and all that?
A lot of their land is like not used though.
Yeah.
It's like just
Oh.
like
Yeah, Siberia,
trees and
It's
like
just like
forests
wasteland.
and
yeah.
like it's uninhabited.
But already, it was almost like because the Soviet Union, when that fractured, it was turned into Russia and 14 separate independent republics. And so they lost so much land already that everyone was like, wow, they really got closed. And so I think at the time it was like, they are a shadow of their former self, so they lost considerable territory. They're still the biggest country in the world, but they're a lot smaller than they were. They lost a lot of power. And then the most recent thing, besides the 2020 referendum, is when they voted, the people of Crimea voted to basically become part of Russia. There were a lot of Russians living there already, but then the Russian troops controlled Crimea, so it's like they basically fixed the vote. It was,
Right, it was just.
yeah, it was a total, I don't know, stone job, so.
okay, but wasn't a constitutional referendum just Putin being like, you're gonna vote for this?
Pretty much, and he put things on there where the Russian people would vote for, like making Eastern Orthodox the state religion and other things that they wanted. And he also said, oh yeah, and by the way, if you vote yes, you're also voting to end term limits for the presidency. But Russians it was a black and white choice. They could just pick, like, it wasn't like a la carte where they can say yes to the Eastern Orthodox, yes to this other thing, but no to Putin get more terms. They had to do either yes or no. And so that's how Putin, of course, crafted it deliberately, so they wouldn't give him more power. Yep.
What are the benefits of establishing like religion or the national religion?
It gives people something to fall back on. Because of the historical value there, the traditions behind the Eastern Orthodox Church, a lot of people see that as, we're going back to the old days of Russia with the czars, and the church was a strong part of our country. So remember the one documentary where those kids are going to that private school, and there's all the pictures of the czars and the former leaders, and there's a lot of like church, like they don't call them pardons or popes, but the patriarchs. And then what else was it?
Deacons?
Something like that, yeah. They were there's pictures of them. So again, it's Putin taking advantage of like just like Hitler did, like be proud of your country. We have a rich history. Okay, it goes back a long time. So it's just more of like a propaganda stunt for Putin. So because he's not, I would doubt that he's very religious. I would be very shocked if he was. So he's using it politically to his advantage. Because he's on the side of the church, and hey, our leader's on the side of the church, then who can be against us? So he's kind of hijacking it a little bit. That's my take on it. So, China, not applicable.
Because they don't care about
Yeah, they will not ask the people what they want.
Well,
Basically, their motto is,
time.
they'll say, I'll ask for your opinion when I give it to you, kind of thing. Huh? Right?
Like,
So-
what do you want? They say we don't want to die.
Hong Kong, they'll tell you that they don't have enough revenue, they've asked for it.
Shouldn't work out like that.
You get Hong Kong, basically, is the way to say it now. Okay, so that was a quick one. Iran, well, there was one in 1979.
Oh,
That was the choice. Islamic Republic, yes or no? You know what the vote was?
yes.
Yes, I think it was in the documentary. Maybe it wasn't. I watched so many of those. Over 90%. There was a lot of support at the time to revolutionize, and they had so much hatred for the Shah of Iran that was there before.
Wasn't this after the Constitution?
This was like before, during, and after it.
Thank
Yep. So yeah, that was all when they were overthrowing our embassy there. Yep. So since then, so after 1979, then it becomes non-applicable. They don't do any referendums anymore. Okay.
That was became a republic.
Right. So, right, again, we talked about this before, I think the blue team, we had a discussion, like, why do all the dictatorships use like names that sound real good, like the People's Republic of China, the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, which is the Soviet Union?
Because it sounds good.
It just sounds good, it's all a facade, it's a mirage, okay? They do that because, no, they're not gonna come out and say, yeah, we're the evil empire. So, we're gonna persecute you in this country.
Like,
They
you're
don't.
going
It
to
would be
die.
cool. Yeah, it would be cool. Like imagine the Soviet Union, but it is just called the evil empire.
That's
Like,
what Reagan called it. He called it the empire.
okay, but like that's so much cooler than the Soviet Union. Like I don't care about that.
Yep.
I mean, I feel like Stalin would have been like, hey, the majority of you
Like, at least
are
the
not
opposite
making
of
it
that.
to the next day.
Yeah,
I would trust them more to be at least being honest.
there's
I
that.
mean,
Honesty is the best policy.
until you're making up animals, those have to country.
That's right. So before AMLO took power, they were not doing referendums in Mexico. They were allowing elections, because remember, they're in a transition from illiberal to liberal, and they've been on that transition since 2000. So AMLO had that recent referendum where he wants to have the ability for the people to vote to recall a president. And then also the one we just read about earlier this week, where he wants to be able to hold all the 5 previous presidents accountable for corruption.
So previous presidents meaning not himself.
Yeah.
Why doesn't Nigeria do it, just because of all the corruption?
Yep. A referendum would not go over well because then you'd have the North versus the South, and neither would be happy. Like, they can't even do a census. It's almost a civil war. Yeah, it's really hard for them to do that. They really have to be careful with it. So, I know, we have 5 minutes to do cardboard. Can we do it?
Right now. Right now. Wait, how is this gonna work?
Yeah, what are you doing? Oh, it's what?
How, like, what, how are we doing? I'm kind of confused.
The cardboard?
Yeah.
You're going to take 6
In
minutes.
doing the cardboard, we are like finally set.